We are here for the annual summit 2022 of the World Press Freedom Day, Kenya chapter.
Digital media has changed our lives. For some, for the worse, for some, for the better. But of course, like any other new technology, we have to have some kinds of rules and regulations so that also digital media would be serving the interests of people and not harming them.
Journalism under siege has been the theme this year. It implies increasing attacks on the media, not just physical, although there have been many physical worldwide, including in Kenya, but attacks by other factors. For example, one factor is the digital disruption that has really brought down the business of traditional media. Another attack is proliferation of fake news, which we are now recognizing as misinformation and disinformation. It's another form of attack on the media. So the theme sits well with media worldwide. And the reason for this summit is usually to mitigate the effects of those attacks on the media.
Yes, in the last 2 decades, this digital siege has put journalism under fire, threatening to change the role as well as formats of journalistic practices in ways never imagined before. The emergence of disinformation and misinformation on social media and other digital platforms has put journalistic credibility to test.
So when we come together like this and discuss, you also get to do sort of peer review and also hear what other people are going through. And that way you learn a lot. So it is a way of advancing journalism. And you see the things we pick from here, we go back to our newsroom and also look at our practices, look at how are we doing things, what can we change, what did we learn from a certain presentation. And that is why that's how journalism grows, and that's how we advance the quality of journalism across the country.
It's an opportunity for us to reflect, plan, and deeply think about how can we respond to the digital challenge. Because this digital siege is a siege to the individual journalist, to the institutional media house, and to the consumers, because even the consumers are no longer getting this information from one source but different channels through the technological aspects.
The issue of safety of journalists goes way beyond the normal competition that we have as individual media houses. It is something that is a collective concern. So that was the rationale behind this team, and they've worked over the last month or so to try and come up with some basic framework which we believe would be a good guide to form a basis through which the media houses can collaborate in ensuring that our journalists are safe. From where you sit, how you would approach this question, because this digital space has the good, the bad, and the ugly.
What worries me a lot is the fact that the propagandists are getting so good at their game. And one of the concerns for media right now is deep fake videos. Videos that are being manipulated and looking like they're the real thing, deep fake. And you can see that there's a lot of professional, in quotes, work that has gone into that, which is very, very dangerous. And they're actually using the branding of media houses.
The challenge now comes on the purveyor of that information, in that case our space as media practitioners or journalists, and definitely the people who might suffer the damage if it's collateral of the damage of misinformation or getting wrong information is the audience.
We have a duty as journalists, and most of us who go out to cover these functions, remember, for every function that you go out to cover as a journalist, they have also put their people there who their business is not the news of the day, what you're listening to, but their business is the goof. So in a specific function that you will go to, you'll realize that the number of people who are citizen journalists and with phones are many than the journalists who are there.
What the Media Council of Kenya have been doing, especially in the past 2 years, is to reach out to operators of the digital media. Last year, 2021, we called as many together as we could and took them through a systematic training on how to do professional journalism in digital media without doing the kind of work most of them do that propagates disinformation. So reaching out to them, training them, guiding them, and showing them this is the way to go. You achieve more credibility by writing the truth rather than by writing fake news. That's what we are trying to push for.
Thank you, panelists, for joining us. And could you tell us if you are aware of any good workplace mental health practices?
The pandemic came and we were just pushed out there as frontline workers. Of course, it has never happened, but it was something that was so new to us. Just like the world was cooperating, we were also trying to find ourselves. But the question was, we saw dead bodies. We saw everything. We saw the graphical images before us. Then what happens next? Do we just go back to the newsroom and assume it was a pandemic and it's over? What happens to us? So we expected, of course, it's now that it's a global tradition that people are creating societal groups so that they can talk about mental awareness. But in our media houses, there was no safe space where you could go and actually, for example, tell your HR, I need an advance because where I am, I'm suffering. So there was no safe space that was autonomous for you to just go and vent out and tell someone, I went through this during my pandemic. So for us as journalists, we are not okay yet. And I think it is high time, before we are trained to talk about mental health, can you assess if, as journalists, we are okay in our mental capacity?
For the organization that I worked for, Nation Media Group, we had a well set up system, Matters Mental Health. And I'm glad and grateful, and I hope that most media houses will pick up from what NMG does in terms of supporting journalists who are living with mental health condition or who are developing mental health condition depending on the situation. For instance, as she's mentioned, COVID period. Just highlighting on them, we have a system of therapists, psychotherapists, a journalist, when you've covered traumatic events, for example, accidents, you've covered, deaths. And I know we are all familiar with a well-known journalist who committed suicide in South Africa, who died by suicide, in South Africa. And in his suicide note, he mentioned that the images he used to see, and the frustration he used to see, and my colleague has mentioned financial issues and all that. And I wish he had a channel where you can talk about what you're going through. So for as far as NMG is concerned, there's that channel where you can talk to HR and you're given a therapist who you can talk to. And then after talking to a therapist, if condition is severe, they can refer you to a psychiatrist.
Stigma is very high, and it's contributing to the fact that a big percentage, up to 60% of people affected by mental health issues are not able to come out and speak, because that is, when once you say that you have mental health issues, they'll say you are mad. And therefore, and you know how journalists, we don't like to be associated with dubious reputations, dubious in quotes, because I also don't want to stigmatize people who have mental. So I'm just saying that because that is the perception that journalists have about mental health. So we do a lot of advocacy. We have partners with associations and organizations like IREX, GIZ, we have AMWIC, where we talk about mental health issues and reassure journalists that you are coming out not only to help yourself, but also help and empower your colleague who is afraid of speaking out, so that you are able to deliver. The end result is that what is the quality of your work? Anything that threatens the professionalism of journalists, we consider it as a threat to journalism.
The organizers of this conference were on point to bring the discussion of digital journalism and various threats that journalists are facing. Another aspect that is very critical is about the controls in the digital space, and I'm looking forward to listen to more discussions, especially on surveillance of journalists and media practitioners and the general digital space.
Are there tools that as journalists, as fact checkers, as investigators, we can use to keep ourselves safe from some of these all-powerful, very intrusive software?
How I look at it is that not everything that you will use will be high-powered or sophisticated. But some of the tools that you can use are more preemptive and are also very effective. So one example of something that we use at Africa Uncensored is a risk matrix, right? A risk matrix essentially is just a Word document or an Excel spreadsheet that outlines the kinds of risks that you face, the likelihood of them happening, and the severity were they to happen, right? By doing this before going into the field, you then have a good understanding of what exactly you're going out to face, right? That isn't on Google. It's not something that you need any training for. It's really just something that you need the time for.
I would imagine that one of the things that we need to do as journalists is to invest in, and these are tools that are free out there, the open source and all that. We need to invest in the knowledge of how do we use them. A second thing is just to change our habits of how we deal with technology. It's expensive to change habit because we are used to routines, but once you get to a new routine of knowing that you need to have 4 different passwords because you have 4 different accounts. I would think that third thing is we also need to challenge some of these surveillance techniques, and that's something that media houses and CSOs can do through the courts. And I think that's something that can be done quite well.
The Media Council, especially in media capacity development, is to build the capacity of journalists to understand about the online tools that can help them be secure, protect their anonymity, for them to protect their sources, and secondly, how to make sure that they can protect their content so that it cannot be easily hacked and misused by other people. So that's from a regulatory perspective.
There are several uses of AI in journalism, right from content generation to reporting breaking news to writing headlines.
Professor Booker mentioned earlier that it's been adopted in the New York Times and Washington Post, and it's being used from content generation to writing headlines. And I was wondering to myself, should we see it as a threat? Because at the moment, media houses are obsessed with cutting costs, and that includes downsizing or retrenchment. So in the long run, is it going to replace journalists?
So what can be automated will be automated. I think that's the reality that we live in. And also just realizing that, when we think about journalism or a newsroom, the sort of profile of the people, that then will make up or comprise a newsroom will change, if it hasn't started changing already. It's not just so much about journalists. Today you have, you have to be able to create space, for app developers, for data analysts, and for the likes of Kiki.
Media houses can automate mundane operations such as repetitive tasks in the newsroom, like say stock market reports, weather reports. There are those that have already automated such like operations. At what point do we set boundaries? And then what kinds of levers should newsrooms actually put in place to ensure that in as much as we are automating some of these tasks, humans are still in control? And humans in this case, we are referring to the journalist in the newsroom. We are talking about the editor.
I don't think there are ethics for handling AI and ethics for journalists. From a standpoint of AI is actually a tool that is created by humans. Therefore, the same ethics that we apply as media to ensure that the public has access to free speech are the same ethics we should use when we are applying AI tools. If you look at the UNESCO recommendation on AI ethics, it's very clear that if we start looking at AI as a different legal entity and ethics that apply to journalism or any other practice as another sort of ethics, then we are actually missing the point. Ethics are ethics that apply to humans, because basically AI makes a decision that executes a decision made by a human. So for free speech, the same thing applies. The same limitations we have as far as the code of conduct for the practice of journalism is concerned, of ensuring that we give everyone a right to be heard, a right to be listened to, are the same ethics that we should apply when we are using AI.
In terms of what comes out on the traditional media, you'd have the process of verification. But when it comes to the digital aspect, it's the speed and the depth. So because of that, and because you want to have traffic of how many people will actually visit your platform, you find most of the time you actually pick data that eventually some people raise queries. So there is that, it's a double-edged sword. At the same time, you give information, but how credible is that information to also ensure that your website or the people getting that content from you actually trust and believe in the information you give?
So for me, actually, I see it as an opportunity for media houses to reclaim their space. Are you a media house where people are coming to verify information? They have seen it on Twitter, they have seen it in certain blogs. Are they coming to your website to see, is it true or it is false? And actually, from where I sit as an editor, we have realized that stories of fact-checking are among the best in terms of performance.
We've just signed a charter a few minutes ago. Have we discussed with those global publishers on how we should be responsible in reporting? We should come together as an industry, should come together as authorities. How are we educating people on the use of platforms? If I take a video and there's a statement you said, and if I was very cheeky, I would actually create a deep fake out of it. And what are the responsibilities around coverage of events when you allow certain people to manipulate stuff and put on platforms and claim is true? What are we doing about it?
As we celebrate this day, let us strive for ethical and professional journalism. Let us promote freedom of opinion and the safety of journalists. Let us also set the agenda on sustainable peace and development. Let us encourage pluralistic media, promote ethical use of artificial intelligence, and as key stakeholders in the media industry, Let us promote media and information literacy. In so doing, ladies and gentlemen, we will reinstate the functional value of journalism.
So over the next 1 year is a challenge for us to reflect and engage in deliberate interventions that ensure that then journalism, or rather the work of the media, is protected and upheld with the dignity and professionalism that it deserves.
The annual Journalism Excellency Awards is about celebrating excellence in journalism, and it's a culmination of the annual Media Summit. And this annual Journalism Excellence Awards is unique from the others because it's the 10th anniversary, and therefore we are going to award 10 veteran journalists who have excelled in this field. And I can summarize it as a party to celebrate excellence in journalism.
I've witnessed all the 10 years. We started AJEA in 2012, and today we are in 2022. It's marking its 10th year. That tells you, and it has been growing day by day. Fantastic work being done, but more importantly, that it's an event. We have seen people who win the annual Journalist of the Year award locally continuing to win the same stories, winning award globally, and that tells you the credibility, trust that AJEA, the annual Journalist of the Year award does. One of the other things we have learned that journalists in Kenya are fantastic people, fantastic professionals, and the kind of work, when you go through the judging process in these stories that are winning, you find that we have amazing journalists doing great work on human interest, public interest, stories that tell a story, and that's why we continue making AJEA better year by year. It's a climax of everything. I mean, even if we win AJEA, even if we do what we must eat. But more importantly, there will be dance. We are celebrating 10 years of AJEA. There will be cutting of a cake to mark the year. There will be speeches, fantastic speeches from PSS, from industry players, just to acknowledge the wonderful work that journalists in Kenya are doing, even despite the challenges that were brought by COVID-19 and other frustrations. But journalists have continued to maintain their professionalism, their zeal to be to excel in whatever they are doing, and we are going to see some snapshots of some of the stories that have won award, and you will be surprised what the things that are happening in this country. So it's not just an evening of sitting. It will be dance, it will be cut caking, it will be enjoying, it will be rejoining friends who have not seen each other for some time. It will be celebrations of those who have won. It will be photo taking. It will be fantastic. It's a mix of things, a mixed grill of sort of.
Today's 10th Annual Journalism Excellence Awards is a culmination of the efforts of journalists, a crowning moment for the days of sweat and toil, and indeed blood, because we know sometimes journalists lose their lives or get injured in pursuit of information, in pursuit of the truth. to the Media Council of Kenya, to the judges of the Annual Journalism Excellence Awards, your efforts are applauded as you go a long way in encouraging quality journalism, promoting fearless professional practice of journalism, and to set standards for the representative voices in the media. To the winners in the various categories, I say well done, I say great job, and I say kudos and a hearty congratulations. Keep up the good work. Keep our attention riveted.
I wish to challenge journalists to continue striving for the best in order to achieve the highest standards of ethics in the profession and practice of journalism. This celebration being the culmination of this year's World Press Freedom Day, whose theme was Journalism Under Digital Siege, or you could say Journalism Under Digital Siege, presents us with an opportunity to reflect on the impact of technological advancements on media operation. I urge the media to harness the benefits that come with the digital revolution to deliver information that is beneficial to the public and to ensure that they operate sustainability in a safe environment where privacy and public trust is safeguarded. It is also important to note that even as we celebrate the gains brought about by the digital era, we must ensure adherence to journalistic ethics as is enshrined in our Constitution.
The world today, more than ever before, requires good and ethical journalism to ensure the dissemination of accurate information. We all know that with the growth of social media, misinformation and falsehood abound. Journalists are therefore called upon to ensure that the consumers of news get the correct facts and information. Journalism, as was stated by Sri M.V. Naidu, Vice President of India, is a vocation to serve the truth and hold a mirror to the contemporary happenings in a society. I urge you, members of the Fourth Estate, to serve the truth in your calling. It is my sincere belief that these awards will continue to motivate journalists, and especially the upcoming ones, to seek to be the best and grow in their profession.
Sonella, Sonella, Sonella. Oh, your tongue a little. I'm with your hand in Bula. Oh, your tongue a little. I want thee, but you're far. Oh, you're far away. Be bon que bonjour bano, fimisle. Be bon que bonjour bano, fimisle. Well, she used to be my everything, treating me like I was a queen. What spell did you cast on me? Or was it a make-believe? Said, girl, never be afraid if ever loving me. Those words I hang on to. Oh God, I was a fool. You became my bad habit, keeping up appearances. So you could notice it. And even when you suddenly picked your things and left the keys, that's crazy. That's crazy. Vivant que bonjour bano, fimisle. Vivant que fimisle.
We are seeing serious, serious competition, serious growth, especially in local-based media, community media, freelance journalists, in new areas like podcast, and it's really, really competitive. And given that AJEA is a competition that gauges journalists, we see, because in the competition like this year, we had 1,200 entries away from when we started, when we had about 600. Then we had, last year we had 1,000. Today, this year we have 1,200. That tells you that AJEA is going and going. And one of the things we can tell you, because that the journalists who win the AJEA continue to grow and improve, is that stories that win in AJEA have continued also to win international global awards like CNN awards, and the same stories. That tells you that they are very competitive, high quality stories.
And we are glad we partnered with the Media Council of Kenya in the 10th Annual Journalism Excellence Awards. We are glad that the stories that the journalists came out with were of great essence, were ethical, and adherent to all the objectives of journalism. We believe moving forward, we are going to have better stories moving forward. We'll see journalists carrying out ethical stories and doing objective journalism, so that we are going to have better journalism for the future. We believe that this event is going to be key in building this nation, especially in ensuring that the citizens of the country are well informed on all the matters, because we know journalism is the mirror of the public and also a public watchdog. We congratulate all the journalists who have won these awards, and we believe moving forward we are going to have more entries, especially now that we saw this year we had more entries than the previous year, so we expect next year we're going to have more entries and more journalists coming for this award. Thank you very much.
My name is Irene Kaimuri. I'm a radio producer with Radio Maisha. I have won in the best radio production category. This is the first time winning such an award, and it's quite exciting. I have learned that it is time to up the game, and I'm going to up my game completely to be the best in production, that is in radio, hopefully to win in the next coming years, and to impact more young people in the industry, and to train and be a mentor to many more young people in the industry. I'm hoping to improve in my productions too.
Wow, what can I say? We've just scooped a couple of awards here at the 10th edition of the Media Council Awards. Very, very excited. We had no idea what to expect as we got here. And for me, the category that I was in was the Business and Innovation category, where in the TV section, Ben Kirui, Leah, and myself scooped the award for a story called Debt of Shame. Winning a Media Council Award, I never take for granted. A couple of years back, I was nominated 3 years in a row. Did not win anything. It's only last year that my colleagues and I won our first award, Investigative, and then this year. And let me tell you something, this year it has felt huge. The kind of attendance we've seen here, the focus on media, digital siege, or some say siege as well. I think the Media Council Awards are going from strength to strength.
The event is usually organized in partnership with like-minded stakeholders who support growth of journalism, who support freedom of the press so that we can continue to enhance the skills, to continue to perfect the kind of stories and information that goes out to the audiences. So that is what Annual Journalism Excellence Awards is. Again, I'm also seeing that the categories are going to metamorphosize and begin to move towards more issue-based as opposed to, categories that are very traditional like development, health. We now are going to start looking at, things such as climate change. We are going to start looking at innovation in a more different way, and that is going to begin to change how journalism is done. So I can see the awards are going to begin to grow and to begin to change, to adapt to the changing platform, the changing environment of the media, so that we go more digital, so that we also go more interpretive as opposed to just regular reporting. We will also begin to go more analytical, so that analysis and stories that analyze issues are going to become the kinds of entries that we are looking out for.